You just got married, you're glowing, you're riding that high, and then you see your photos. Suddenly your heart sinks. Blurry, missed moments, weird lighting. Ugh. Today, we're diving into the very real reason why your friend with a fancy camera is not the one to trust with your once-in-a-lifetime memories. We've got real talk, spicy truths, and a lot of love for the professionals behind the lens who will save you from that heartbreak. This is We Gather To.
Welcome back to We Gather To. This is a photographer-filled episode, and I am Tess.
I'm Tracey.
And I'm Rachel. We're going to give you a photographer's perspective on all things about why it's super important to hire a pro. This is actually not the episode that was scheduled for this week, but what happened was that I put a topic out to our listeners. I was asking them in getting ready for our important moments episode, asking them the things that meant the most to them during the day. And overwhelmingly, everybody talked about the thing that meant the most to them was the images caught at their wedding. Even when they talked about moments that were special to them, you know, when they were standing on their dad's feet during the dance, like they did like a child, or looks that they were giving each other and the dancing on the floor, every single person said, and what I love is that I have those photos to go back to and look at over and over and over and over and relive it. And so after reading everybody's responses to that, it made sense that this is such an important decision in their experience that I had to up this episode for us to talk about today.
It should be one of your first decisions in the timeline of your planning. It actually fits right in because I feel like it falls around the same importance. I mean, I'm biased, but like you said, it's the legacy of what you leave behind. Anytime we talk to folks about, I just actually spoke about this the other day, that our photographs are our memory. They're clearer than how it happens in our head. It's all we have left after events, you know? So it's crucial. And I think it's right up there with your venue, in my personal humble opinion as a photographer.
It is true. I mean, walk around our house and what do we have everywhere? It's intergenerational too. So we'll have photographs of our grandparents or ancestors before then, our children. It makes sense.
And sometimes weddings are the last time that our elders are photographed together with our families. And so I really love at weddings to focus on the older folks and make sure to get a really beautiful portrait of them that day because they're dressed so nice and they get to sit with the grandkids and they get to be part of the intergenerational thing that's happening. And it's a really great moment to make sure you get a great family portrait with the older folks because it might be the last professional shot you have of them.
I think the portraits of all the things from a wedding day are the one thing that lasts the longest.
Mm-hmm.
The cake you'll never have again. You'll never eat that food again. You'll never wear the dress again. You will always have those portraits. So to me, hiring a professional photographer is the single most important thing you can do.
Let's talk a little bit about why we think hiring a professional photographer really should be a non-negotiable.
As an important part of your budget decision, right?
Yes, it should be.
Mhm.
And the main reason is this is not a do-over event.
Right.
This is a one shot. This is your day. And you can't go back and redo all those moments.
And speaking from two professional photographers who had crappy wedding photographs, like I don't have wedding pictures to look back on that. They're not beautiful. They're just snapshots that are ill composed with really bad lighting. It's like the 101 of how not to take wedding photos is how my wedding photos came out. I'm not showing anybody ever either. So don't ask.
I was going to show them on this episode, and I can't even find the album anymore. I think it went away, and it's probably a good thing that it went away.
I even directed. I wasn't a photographer yet. I was just a makeup artist. And I was like, I don't think we should stand in the sun. I think that's a really bad idea. Let's move over here to the shade. And then he was like, I don't know how to compensate for the bright light in the back and the shade in the foreground.
You know, you hear way more stories about couples who regret not hiring a professional, especially with social media. All of that stuff just is everywhere now about how I should have,
People are pretty public about their regrets,
Yeah.
which is good.
And they contact us and to do portraits after.
Yeah. We're just a little disappointed in our wedding portraits. Do you think we could get together at the venue and take some do-overs, a year later or at the beach or whatever, just so that they have good portraits in their attire?
It's not the same. One of the reasons why it's so important too is just what you touch on, to that emotional significance, right? Because yes, we will go with you in your wedding clothes and we'll do that, of course, but you've missed that emotional piece of being in the moment, of being in that day, of being with your family, of the hugs and, everything from the anxiety to the joys. We can reinvent the images, but we can't reinvent the experience for you.
And that's why those images are so evocative when you see them, especially the shots that we take with a long lens through the crowd of a moment happening between two people that nobody else can see. You're the only human being witnessing this moment because you have an eye for it and you've been trained to look for it and your empathy knows how to pick it up. That will never happen again. That moment of love that happens between people. I think people who are trained to look for it are really valuable in this industry. I think that there's a subset of photographers like the three of us who are highly emotionally attached to everything we do.
But one of the benefits is that we can help you feel less stressed that day. So you can just actually really relax and enjoy your day and know you don't have to give us a 500 item shot list because we've got you. We're going to get that. Just enjoy your day.
I remember when you guys first started out, did you get long shot lists from folks? I remember getting these things, and then you get to the point where you create, I think, your own consistent style, which kind of leads us into the next part of our topic, to look for consistency and quality and go through someone's images and ask to see an entire wedding. This is the first thing you should do when interviewing a photographer, is ask to see the whole thing from start to finish, not the cherry picked beautiful moments that show up on Instagram one at a time, but an entire gallery of the day. And if that's consistent and the lighting is consistent and you can tell that it's emotional and it's raw, but the portraits are also great and it's candid and it's all the things that sort of feel what you're looking for, then make an appointment to talk on the phone.
We've talked a little bit about what makes a pro, what sets us apart from a hobbyist or, somebody that may be just starting out. If I had a nickel for every time I was at a reception and somebody was looking over my shoulder and they're like, "Oh, that's a great image. You must have a nice camera."
Usually Uncle Bob with his own DSLR with a better lens than you and a huge
very
flash.
Polite, little smile on my face. Thank you so much. But inside, I'm like, it is so much more than the gear. It doesn't matter if you hand us a point and shoot, if you hand us the highest top of the line. We know what to do with it. And weddings are a lot of pressure. We know how to work under the pressure with the gear that we have. And that makes a huge difference.
It's the storytelling is what it is. And it's not the gear at all. I can hand my camera over to Aunt Sally. She's not going to know how to use it, but Aunt Sally could hand me her point and shoot camera and I could capture the day.
Just as beautifully too, which is what's really cool about being able to do that.
I think that is another reason for hiring a professional. We've gone through probably all stages, levels of owning all this gear, experiencing all different types of weddings and things thrown our way. We know how to handle it. We know what to look for. And when little things do occur, we can handle that in the moment. And I can't stress enough how important it is to choose the right photographer so they can tell your story the way it needs to be told.
Something that you just said is so important too. We know how to navigate it all. And that comes from experience. That comes from, seeing something before it's going to happen and knowing where to have your physical person placed to get an angle to get something that's going to happen. But even more than that, we have literally seen it all. We know how to navigate the family drama. We know how to calm down somebody who's feeling really anxious or stressed or getting a lot of pressure from a parent. We know how to soothe all of that too. We know how to work with the vendors. There's so many hats.
We just know what's going to happen before it happens because we've seen so much of it, right? Like I can always pinpoint a moment when things may devolve. And it's nice to recognize that this is about to happen. Let's make sure it doesn't happen and be able to diffuse situations that don't need to get out of hand just because you've seen it enough to know the thing you're getting mad about right now is not important in this day. Let's get some umbrellas. It's going to be fine. Right. It's also about making sure that when you hire a professional, I always show up with 2 cameras. Rachel has 4 cameras and 75 memory cards and 65 batteries and 72 flashes. Like Rachel shows up with like, she's like the Marine of photographers. She's like, I am prepared. There's no way. She's got food. She's got water, electrolytes. Okay. She's got Tylenol, migraine medicine, cramp pills. She's like tampons.
Yes.
What do you need? I know we went through menopause, whatever, just in case anything could happen. I might need to clog a wound. Who knows? Let's go. She is just like hands down. You need to film how I prep for a wedding and put it on TikTok because
that's such a great idea.
And she has Paul follow her around like a Sherpa because she has so much shit.
So funny.
Like,
but you know what? If I were to get trapped in the wilderness,
you're the person I want to be with, Rachel.
Totally.
Yeah. Absolutely. I just want to see her basement so bad because I'm like, are you storing canned goods down there? Because
her camera bag is huge.
And she's like, my back hurts. I'm like, oh, I wonder why. And she's always like, and every time something happens, she's like, hold on, I've got it. It's just like, I want to make a series of videos of Rachel going, hold on, I think I got this. Because she's just like, I know it's in my bag. Hold on, I've got like 72 jumper cables in there. We're fine.
I bet you have lost count on how many brides you have sewn into their dress.
Oh my gosh.
So true.
Do you ever walk in during the getting ready time and you just look at the bride's face or family member's face or the groom's face and you're like, I got you. I know exactly what headspace you're in right now, and what you need. And it could be a great headspace, and you're going to have a blast, or it could be I am freaking out right now. And, you know how to assess the situation and, kind of get everyone off the ledge.
So you're going to the bride all the time and I'm going to the groom, and I'm used to being a first shooter and going to the bride. And I love that this is flipped for me because the perspective from the groom, oh my God, it's the experience. The whole thing is so different. And I think it's important that a photographer is able to walk into a room and feel comfortable. And you need to come into that room and command presence. I've had second shooters who just won't do it, which, is a training thing. I've had to train young women to be like, you walk in that room, you're the boss. You're holding the camera. You got to be good at reading a room when you walk in and knowing how people are thinking and what the vibe is and what the mood is.
I am convinced that a photographer has a huge part in that getting ready time. It's super special. A photographer has a lot to do with getting that energy or that calm or whatever it needs and helping people remember what they're there for, finding the joy, finding the happiness, letting the stress go, getting excited, having fun. And, so how do you choose the right photographer? When you start the search, it is going to blow your mind how many choices are out there.
And you are choosing a person that you are going to spend the entire day and night with. And you have to like them, because if they are not your person, you're not going to get the images that you were hoping for. It's just too important. And also you have to make sure that this person has your style in mind.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where a lot of people go wrong, right now, and you're seeing this pop up on social media. You know, this photographer edited all my photos this way, and I can't believe it. They're terrible. I actually feel sorry for the photographers who did go through that, and their whole portfolio is beige.
I know. And they're like, this is my style. And you hired me thinking you were going to get something different. That isn't my fault. My style is clear.
That's the number one that you should be doing before you then go into your personality vibe and all of that, is look at those styles. And there's a lot of different styles, but there's kind of large categories of styles that we might have. So let's talk a little bit about those.
You have a documentary, more photojournalistic, where it's real and candid. You have editorial. Editorial right now is, I find, a real big trend, especially where I'm shooting. And I think that, you know, across the country, things can vary a little bit, but editorial is really huge. And that's more stylized and bold, can be very dramatic. I don't know if you girls have noticed, but a lot of black and white is really making a comeback.
That makes my heart so happy because I'm a film photographer and I love black and white. I'd do an entire wedding in black and white if I could. Those two ones that you were talking about, Tracey, are so in the forefront right now, and they have real distinct differences. Documentary is really going to be very candid. You know, you're going to have your posed moments that you typically would do in portrait time, but the rest of the day is capturing in the moment, where editorial has more, a little bit more directorial, definitely dramatic lighting, off-camera flash lighting, you know, things like that. So if you're looking for that, but you hire a documentary photographer, you're not going to get as much of that big, bold, dramatic experience. But, you know, but at the same time, you've got the fine art photographer who's, you know, very dreamy and romantic. And you're always looking for the landscapes. You're looking for the surrounds. You're looking for the environmental perspective of the moment where they are. And that's another piece. So I think there are definitely some photographers who lean very editorial and some who lean very in the moment, and some who lean, you know, like into that fantastical or even the traditional, you know, where it's more classic and, you know, the expected poses. And that's why it is so critical to look at their website and not just the homepage, go to their Instagram and not just the first few on the grid, scroll back, look at everything, look at any boards they have. Because if you hire somebody and you ultimately don't like their style at the end, that's on you.
They have to do due diligence for sure. And I really do feel though that there are photographers that are really able to pull all of these genres together in wedding photography, and they're rare and hard to find, but they're out there. And I think that you two are definitely two of those people that can do that.
I think that the longer that you do this, not only the better you get at it, but you can also recognize the moments where, you know what, I need to step back and let this moment unfold, have no direction, and capture what's happening in front of me. Then you have that where you know you need to step in and you need to direct. And that makes you so very versatile, but also having the personality that allows you to be a director in a nice way. Love that. You know, I can't tell you how many brides have told me, or grooms, or even family members, please tell me what to do.
Part of the fear, like, you know what happens when you put people in a group when we're doing portraits and they're just like, what do we do? We don't know how to stand. What do we do? There's 27 of us. We don't know what to do. And Rachel is like, boom, 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 boom. You.
Right.
Can we just tell people to stick around? Because do we have some stories later?
Oh yeah, we
on?
got a good story.
Do we have some stories? And that just
Raise your hand if you could write a book.
Or several series of books.
How many more podcasts do we have?
How much time do we?
Each episode could be a wedding story for sure.
We haven't touched on the value of the second professional photographer in just what we're talking about too, because let's say you are a photographer that leans more heavily photojournalistic, but you're a second photographer that you work with regularly is very editorial inspired. And when the couples give us that time to create some magic with them, those two come together so beautifully. We cannot understate the importance of a second professional photographer.
We know we're going to get the perfect amalgamation of moment there. And a second shooter is usually looking for the little moments and the little detail, because the first shooter is really focused on making sure the shot list in their head is covered. And then you're there as backup, but you're also there as creative backup and kind of emotional backup too, which is great, you know?
But also making sure that your photographer is bringing in a professional second shooter. You know, I was thinking, Tracey, your style, you have a very editorial, you are a master at composition and flash. When we would shoot weddings together, I would see something with one eye and you would see, we'd be out with the couple and you would see, wait a second, can we just do this? And you would know how to place these lights to get this dramatic image. Just that kind of melding of those two styles just gave such a full body of work to the couple. We always learn from each other.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But the flip side of that is when I'm always thinking of, oh, how can I be super creative? I'm sitting back watching someone like yourself living the moment and not worrying about, oh, could I use a flash here? You are capturing that raw emotion, and that's inspiring me to look for those things as well. So when you have two people that come together to capture every aspect, it's like pure magic. A second shooter is one of the most important things you can do. As a wedding photographer, knowing that person has your back always, it's just incredible.
Yeah.
I don't want to shoot a wedding without one.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're telling couples some really important things that they need to look for. The style, absolutely critical. Making sure that they do their homework in that, reading through the websites, looking at what is this photographer saying? Are they calm? Are they friendly? Are they kind? Can I work with them? Do I feel a good vibe from them? So they've now done this and they are now shortlisting the people who fit their style, fit the personal connection they think that they can have, work within their budget or have, collections and things that will work within their budget. What are some questions that they would ask of themselves or the photographer when they start talking to them?
Well, I think an important thing is will they go to your location? Where is your wedding? Do they travel? And what is also important in that travel? Are you 1 hour away? Are you 2 hours away? Is there going to be accommodations? Things like that. So that is important in my opinion, because there are some people who will not go 30 minutes outside their bubble.
Right.
Mhm.
It's true.
Oh, and the big piece, which is really important, are reviews. So they'll have reviews on their website, but also go to general reviews on Google. Very, very important. Read through those.
To add on to that, we all know we live in an age of keyboard warriors. There are people out there who are slightly malicious and will leave someone a review that they never even worked with. And that is a hard thing to fight these days. So I would say always look at the response from the photographer. See, did they really work with them? How did the photographer handle that criticism?
Did they handle it with tact and professionalism and kindness? If this photographer has 50, 60, 70 plus hundreds of reviews and there's one star and it is clear that it's an outlier and there's a professional and tactful response. And if it says, I'm really sorry, but I haven't worked with you,
Right.
and everything else is 5 stars, then that's not a legitimate review. So absolutely reading through all of those pieces. So you can and you should set up a time to talk with your photographer. And people don't meet in person as often. So you do have to do a phone call. I always offer a Zoom call so you can get as close to in person as you can. But in your short list, ask them things like their process from booking to delivery, how they handle the tough situations, the lighting situations, the wedding situations. Do they shoot solo or do they have that fantastic second professional photographer with them? What's their backup process? What happens if something happens to them? How do they back up and make sure that your day is taken care of? And really a list of any other questions that are super important to them so that they, we could get to know you as well as you can get to know us.
Mm-hmm. With us being destinations, we have weather situations that do occur, different types of weathers,
All kinds of things.
all kinds of things that could really be a problem on your wedding day. And I think that's one of the things that you should discuss with your photographer. What do we do?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
What's your backup plan? And, are you able to shoot in the rain? Do you need coverage? Being able to adapt to weather, just in general, as a photographer, no matter where you live in the country, is crucial. Like, you could get a dust storm if you're in Nebraska. You could get a tornado. You could have a hurricane. Anything can happen anywhere. You can't control the weather, but you can control how you react to the weather. And you can control how you guide other people to react to the weather, right? Because, it has rained, Rachel and I know that it has rained for the last 13 weekends, and it is going to rain again this Saturday.
We're starting to think we need to tell couples to get married on Tuesdays.
Really? Could you change your wedding to Sunday? Because that will change the weather pattern. As soon as you decide to change your plans, then the weather will shift, right? And everything will be fine. So every weekend we have had to come up with some kind of plan. Like, is it going to pour through the ceremony? And we're talking minute by minute. You're like, we got to call it in 10 minutes. We have to decide if we're going to be inside or outside, and then being able to shift for that lighting situation too, because you're going from shooting out in the bright light to now possibly being in a dark room with very little space to work around. How many times have we had weddings where it's outside and then everybody in this tiny little room, all 150 people, right? And then you've got, like, thank God I have a wide angle lens and I've got a flash, and I know how to manipulate low light if I have to without a flash, and all of those things.
I've got a second photographer.
And you have a second shooter.
We could be in two different places.
Yes, at the same time. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's like being two people.
When you're forced inside due to a weather event, you're dealing with really dark conditions. And a true professional is going to know how to handle that. I think that's an important question when you're interviewing photographers. Are you strictly a natural light photographer? Do you incorporate flash? And what happens if, we're forced into a cave? What do we do? How do you handle that? And there are amateurs who are not going to be prepared. So you have to, be very careful when you're hiring.
So we're saying all the things you definitely want to look for when you are either at the stage where you're vetting people through the websites and looking at their work, or you get to the place where you think somebody's going to make a short list. All through that process, what are some red flags that you want to look at that you go, oh no.
Personality for me.
Your gut first and foremost.
If you don't jive or mix with this person, they are not for you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about if they just don't have any web presence? They don't have any reviews. There's nothing there. Or a personal thing. I think it's really important to ask photographers when you're interviewing them, can you send us a full gallery to look at?
Right. Yeah.
So if a photographer is like, no.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't hire anybody who doesn't have a full gallery for you to see. I mean, a professional photographer who shot more than 2 or 3 weddings, I can see when you're first starting out, you might not have enough content. But if you've shot a few weddings, you should have a full gallery of at least, I would say minimum, I'd want to see, if I'm hiring someone and I'm paying thousands of dollars, I want to see at least 100 consistent images in a row in a gallery.
I would actually ask for multiple galleries in different scenarios, because let's be honest, because we're destinations and because of the beautiful landscape where we live, we have shot in so many different kinds of places. I have photographed on private islands and yachts and homes, but I've also shot in cemeteries, and I can show you galleries of all of those. So, I'm giving you so much versatility, as opposed to look at this one wedding I did where everything went great.
And the other piece too, I think that's really important and maybe is not talked about very much is a photographer who just wants to spit on the hand and shake the hand and go, I got you, we're good, as opposed to having an actual professional contract.
Mm-hmm.
And that they are covered with insurance and liability pieces and all of that make it a binding, legal, appropriate contract is
Yep.
super important as
Agreed.
well. Yeah.
Yeah. And part of that contract needs to include what happens if my photographer doesn't show up or they're ill or their flight is canceled. What does the photographer do from that point?
Yeah, they're going to have a wide network of different styles, different people that they trust and they know that can
Right.
step in and provide the same amount of quality technical expertise and also personability that you'll connect
Right.
well with as well.
And a family friend, while it sounds great, they're just getting started and they're looking to build a portfolio. What happens if they don't show up?
Right.
Yeah.
Are they going to find you a photographer?
Yep.
No, they're not.
No. So
Yep.
that's actually leads us nicely to what are some things that we wish couples knew?
How about that you're not paying us to push a magic button on a box to take pictures? There's so much behind it. You've got years of experience and all the editing that we have to do after. So you hire us, we've got to put in hours before, we've got the wedding day, and say you hire a photographer for 8 hours. You've still got them traveling probably an hour on each end. So that's a 10-hour day. And then it takes us about an hour to prep before we even get in the car. So that's 11 hours. So we're talking like to do a wedding is a 24-hour experience for a photographer. It's not, you hired me to start at this time and finish at this time. Our entire day is centered around your wedding from the minute we wake up till we go to bed. It's more than just hiring us for an allotted amount of time. You're hiring us for days in reality at a time. And those days they're worth something. And our work is very valuable. And so good photography isn't going to be cheap. It's not going to be cheap. If you want somebody that's worth their salt, it's worth it for the investment, and the regret is way more expensive. You can never get a day back. You can't get moments back that you wish had been captured or were captured incorrectly because you didn't hire a professional.
And you can quadruple that by so many weddings now because it's such an event, especially if it's a destination. Couples are actually doing parties the day before. They're doing brunches the next day, and they are hiring photographers to capture all 3 days, sometimes 4 days. And that is quite the experience if you've ever done it, and it's a lot. So when you're looking at one day, is 24 to 48 hours taxing on a photographer. Imagine it being 4 days.
Yeah. I've done a few of those. Yeah, they are exhausting.
Oh yeah, exhilarating and absolutely exhausting, and sleep for about 72 hours afterwards.
And then there's the adrenaline. I don't know about you guys. When I leave a wedding at 11 or 12 o'clock, I'm like, there's no way I'm going to sleep for at least 2 or 3 hours. You're just buzzing. When you get home, you've got the music, your ears are still ringing. You were dancing with guests. You're riding the same high that they are.
I call that time frame decompressing, because you literally have to talk yourself down, because it is very exciting. I think as photographers, we become really involved. We are emotionally very, very involved. We feel the excitement and the emotion right along with you and your families. And we don't just turn that off because, oh, it's 11 and our time is up. We need to sit there and think about it and relive it. And it's actually quite beautiful.
It is.
And then we relive it all over again when we edit your photos.
It is.
When we're processing that, and then we get so excited for you to see these, because we remember all those little moments that we were able to capture for you. I think couples also need to know we are not kicking out images that don't strike a chord, don't give us emotion, right? We see these, and we are doing our best to take everything from that day and create that story for you. We are not getting rid of important moment.
Yeah.
I think talking about that when you're hiring your photographer too, we know you're excited. We're actually very excited for you and we want to deliver these images, but it does take time, like we said. Knowing that expectation helps with the end result. And we are not going to be hit with, so many emails. We need this, we need that. Well, we talked about that in the very beginning. So please talk to your photographer. What is reasonable? Can we get one shot from this scenario for our thank you card that we can send out?
Yeah.
That to me is not unreasonable. Knowing that before we go into the day, really helps us prepare for that, because I will sit there and go, okay, that shot right there,
That's the
the
thank you card.
That's the shot they'll want.
Yeah.
And that is the one I am heading back while I'm decompressing and I'm downloading those
Every
photos
time.
and
Yeah.
looking for, because
Yeah.
that's how excited we are for you.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. And we would really love it. We want you to trust us. We want you to trust us from start to finish. If you love our work, let us do that work for you. Let us create that for you. If we give you suggestions on lighting or locations that will give you that ultimate beautiful image you're hoping for, trust us that we're putting you in the best situation. Please don't fight us on that.
And a lot of things I think that people think that you're supposed to do in traditional photography may seem counterintuitive to the client at the time that you're doing it. But if you're a good photographer and you either have a flash or you know how to backlight properly, you wouldn't put someone facing the sun because they're all going to be like this, or they're going to want to wear sunglasses, or they're going to be shiny and sweaty and all those things. And the trust in maybe it doesn't make sense to you the way I'm going to do this, but you need to trust that I'm a professional and I know how to create an image from something that may not make sense to you right now, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And the recommendations that we'll give, we're going to help you relax and be able to enjoy and just let it go. We've got you. We have just a couple of other things to talk about with the time that we have today, things that we really want you to know, maybe behind the scenes a little bit more.
Yeah, we're not musicians, guys. We don't do magic, just so you know. So if your venue has okay, can I tell a little story, a little venue story? This building was in the middle of a field with no trees in sight. It was 95 degrees. The ceremony's inside and the pictures are supposed to be outside. And the only way to get to shade is to walk a football field's length from where we are. And everything inside is linoleum, drop ceiling with drop recess lighting, emergency exits everywhere. So the whole ceremony is set up in a way that it's facing the emergency exit door. There's a big orange bar behind the couple. Nobody wants to listen to me or move anything. And so I've got to shoot it the way it's set up. Sometimes your venue is set up in a way that may not work. And so consulting with us sometimes ahead of time can alleviate the emergency bar in the background of your photos if you trust your photographer enough to say, maybe just shift the arbor this way just 10 feet so that when I'm shooting you doing your vows, the emergency sign in the bar isn't in the background. But I couldn't do anything about that.
That's another reason to hire a pro, because we work very, very well with other vendors, planners especially. And if there is something like that comes up, we can very quickly go to them as opposed to the couple, because we don't want to create that a little bit of stress.
And it ties in with the episode we did last week with Kimberly Finch too.
Yeah.
About the importance of having a planner, the importance of working with somebody who knows the venues and knows the space, knows what you're looking for, so that they don't end up in a situation like that, but rather in a location that really fulfills the vision.
If you're going to hire somebody that has to edit all of that out, then they've got to edit that out, and you should expect that you're going to have to pay them. So you can either listen to your photographer in the first place or your planner or your florist and follow their advice, or you can pay for it later. But that kind of stuff isn't free.
We have a tendency to have issues with videographers, and I don't mean personality wise, but if we're not a team, this is not going to look great. And we have a tendency to get in each other's ways quite a bit. And, there are video teams out there where they have 2 to 3 people shooting one wedding. And, when you work so many weddings, you get to know the other vendors and you know who you're working with and what to expect from that other person. That will make a day very seamless, and your images are going to be so much better for it. I like to know who the videographer is before I head out that day. I want to introduce myself if I've never worked with them before and have a chat. Let's talk about the things that we can do to best work together and, you know, make this outcome the best possible.
We're getting close to the end of our episode, and I have to talk about the story, Tracey. We have to wrap we have to wrap up with a story.
And it's called Being Out on a Skiff in the middle of a thunderstorm with lightning.
Oh, Maine.
With our gear floating in water.
Yes.
No.
Thinking we're going to die before
Yes.
the wedding even starts.
Wait, did you fall in?
No, close enough.
No.
But your gear?
What we were doing as fast as a little skiff could go
To try and beat the storm.
to beat the storm. And we did not beat the storm. It was the scariest moment of my life. And I said a couple bad words.
I would have said a lot of bad words.
So Tracy's sitting, you know, because this wasn't even the wedding. This was just going out to the site because it was a remote island.
Oh my God.
And so we had to really get the lay of the land and meet everybody. And we're in the boat. And when we're getting ready to get on the boat to go back to the mainland, we all looked up at the green, heavy clouds. And Tracy turns around and goes, "Do you think we should be going out on the boat in this water in our drive?" He's like, "No, we'll beat it in. It's all good.
Yeah.
It's fine." So as we're out there in this little tiny dinghy boat,
Oh my God.
the waves are starting to kick up. And I remember being on the side where the captain was, and you're on the edge of the boat holding on. I can't even show it on here, but holding on for dear life. At which point this giant wave comes over and just goes over the top of you.
I think that's when I said, I hate this fucking wedding.
Yeah, that was exactly what.
And it hadn't even started. Sorry.
Just sitting there completely like a drowned rat.
Oh, I would have been pissed.
That was only the beginning, Tess.
Oh, that wedding.
Because the wedding day itself had some of the all-time worst moments I've ever experienced as a photographer.
Oh my God.
Which I don't know if we
talk
can
about today.
say what they are, because, you know,
I hate when you can't say
obvious.
because then it's
We'll
then
give
it's
it
obvious
away.
whose wedding it is, and
Yeah.
if they hear it, they'll be like, "What?"
yeah.
Yeah, I've had some
to
of those.
be afraid for your life more than one time.
Oh my God.
Um,
I can't wait for you.
multiple boats,
Wow.
fireworks.
Oh my God.
You name it. A bulldozer.
Groomsmen off the side of the boat,
All the
wondering if he
same
was
wedding?
going to surface again.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Lost shoes.
Wow.
Yeah. Knee deep mud.
A completely drunk bride.
Oh my God. I've had a few of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Knee deep mud.
Wow.
Yep. Remember the
Yeah.
canoe? It all worked out great. Oh,
So we created such a beautiful body of work.
That's so crazy.
That images
Probably
from
some
this
of our
wedding.
best.
I love it.
Images from this wedding got published in 2
I
magazines.
love it. That's amazing. Always, right?
And that-
right?
Yeah. And so this is the story
The
we
most
take with
drama.
us forever.
It's amazing.
And see, folks, this is why you need a professional photographer, because we could literally take a literal shit show and have
Yeah.
it published in 2 magazines for you.
There you go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there you
it's
go.
True. It's very
polishing
true.
a turd.
Polishing
and almost dying in the process.
And almost dying a couple of times, literally.
But you know what? That's what makes us who we are.
Right.
And will I do it again? Yes, I will.
Of course.
Yep.
Of course.
Absolutely.
As a second shooter preferred.
I don't know. I think my job was scarier.
Probably in that instance. Yeah. You're like, no one gives a
Yes.
shit about me. I'm the second shooter. You pushed me in the water.
Rachel stayed on land. I did not.
And you know, in that big bag of stuff that I have, I would have had a rope and a hook to pull you right in had you
Oh.
gone over that boat.
Listen,
Wait, I mean,
I was all about
I got
saving
it.
myself. I was not a good human.
Oh.
I
Just
would
like,
not have
fuck
saved
that
anyone
camera. I'm
else but
swimming to
myself.
shore.
Yep. Put a Ziploc bag on my gear and swim to shore.
Here you go. I'm out.
That's
Bye.
awesome. That's a great story.
Like a boss.
Like a boss.
There's just so much more.
Good episode, you guys. Thanks, everybody. We can't wait to see you next time where we talk about whether or not to elope or book a venue or get, set a date or whatever. You going to elope or not? What are we going to do? My backyard's open. Let's go.